Pay close attention. The news you're about to see is fulfilling Bible prophecy.
Welcome to another edition of YPN News, bringing you the news that relates to Bible prophecy and foretold by Yeshua Hawkins. Well, we're going to talk about the latest on the Ukraine crisis there. Things are beginning to really heat up.
That's right.
Also, China and Russia, two of the world's superpowers, strengthening their ties together. And also, we're going to look at the latest. North Korea tested another missile. So we'll have those details. But first, we're going to start with the water and what is taking place here with some of the sewer going into the water and some of the fish die-offs that are recently taking place. Well, the CDC is now tracking COVID and its various mutations with a new dashboard at wastewater treatment plants. Please take a look at this video, this short video here, for more details.
Specifically, this report is showing that if we were using wastewater surveillance, we could identify variants even faster than through clinical capture of cases. What's really interesting is that Omicron was likely circulating well before we even knew that it was emerging among cases, and highlights the value of a new data source to track future variants.
A lot more evidence coming out regarding their tracking of the COVID in the wastewater, which is evident that it's already in people, giving them an indicator of how widespread it is in the city before it starts showing up in the hospitals.
Right.
Well, residents of Mesa, Arizona are wondering why the fish are dying in the consolidated canal that runs through their city. People in the community started noticing the problem a couple of days ago, and it's already affecting all fish in the canal, large and small, by the dozens now. So far, though, no one knows what's causing the fish to die.
One man told Arizona Family News, "I ride my bike down this path a couple times a day, and I've noticed a lot of fish belly up." Now, not only can people walking and biking see the dead fish floating, but they can also smell them. Tony Elba travels up and down the canal path every day. He pointed out that the ducks are not even going in the water, which is unusual, and said he's never seen anything like this.
And being Arizona, I'm sure that heat is not helping that situation. Right. Well, the owner of the 132-mile-long canal is Arizona's largest utility company, SRP, which is short for Salt River, project. The not-for-profit community-based company supplies both water and power to the community, and SRP said they stock the canal with 44,000 white aimer fish to help keep it clean. Arizona Family News saw one of SRP's trucks driving along the canal taking pictures. A lot of people are talking or taking notice as the fish continue to float down the canal in the direction of the current.
While residents have their own guesses as to why the fish are dying, SRP was having their own environmental scientists examine the canal. Now, the company is saying it might be that these fish didn't survive the recent cleanup from the water being emptied and returned, or there could be bacteria killing the fish. But as of right now, there are no known water quality issues with the canal. Therefore, no one really knows What's going on?
Well, moving from one water problem to the next. This time we are in drought-stricken eastern Ethiopia, where they have been experiencing 2 years of very low rainfall in the lowland region. Now, United Nations reports over 4 million people have critical water shortages, and the livestock that they count on for survival are dying by the tens of thousands.
While journalists have been restricted from having access into the country, the UN has released a video from the Somali region. Now, in the video, you can see a mobile clinic set up and people getting some assistance. And right now, hundreds of thousands of people are dependent upon the support the UN's Children Fund is giving for their health and nutrition.
Well, according to the UN, there are about 200,000 malnourished children right now, but those numbers will continue to quickly grow. Mobile clinics set up by the UN Children's Funds help provide help, like vitamin-rich therapeutic feeding paste, which can pull some children through the starvation. Now, the livestock these people depend on have to be walked further and further each month in search of water to sustain them. And the water they find is very shallow in very shallow pools, which are not easy to draw from, but it's at least something.
Well, the mobile clinics set up by the UN are helping, but they also say that they need about $30 million to reach everyone in need. Now, they teach proper sanitation, treat malnutrition, and also illnesses, including administering vaccinations. But as more crops fail and animals die, those in need just continue to increase. Now, in 2 months from now, the UN estimates that almost 7 million people will need assistance.
And that's continuing to grow as we feel the effects of global warming. Now, turning to Europe and the compulsory vaccinations. Austria is making a big push to get everyone in their country vaccinated. But according to estimates, about 20% of Austrians are refusing to get the jab. Now, a new law has been passed by a large majority in Parliament requiring all citizens to get their COVID shots.
Well, Green Party MP Ralph Schellminer told Al Jazeera, quote, "In Austria, we make a clear evaluation, but if the healthcare system is in danger for you, for me, for all of us in the country, then this counts for more than personal rights," end quote. Well, there have been demonstrations against COVID restrictions and compulsory vaccinations on the weekends, bringing Austrians into the streets by the tens of thousands.
Michael Brunner founded the People, Freedom and Fundamental Rights Party to oppose Austria's COVID-related policies. He spoke with Al Jazeera as well, saying, quote, "Compulsory vaccinations is not based on evidence and there's no way to justify it in legal terms. It's a serious violation of fundamental rights, and right now there is no justification for violating them," end quote. Well, Mr. Brunner does not believe scientists' claims that COVID vaccinations are safe for the public. He predicts there will be thousands of lawsuits filed in against the new law and doesn't believe it will be enforced.
Austria is going to great lengths to increase its vaccination rates, sending out free donuts after the first jab and having special ones to celebrate getting boosters. But the government is going much further by having vaccinations compulsory, a move that some fear could be counterproductive.
Yeah, I'm not sure that donuts are going to convince people to get a jab.
There's been a lot of incentives, but donuts is a new one.
That's right. Well, Barbara Prainsack from the University of Vienna expressed her concerns about the government's move. She said, "It's risky because you risk losing the people in the middle. The people who might have concerns, who might have hesitations, but they're not anti-vaxxers. So this is a known effect that when a compulsory policy comes in, especially when it concerns something as important and invasive as a vaccination, then people tend to think, okay, if I'm being forced to do this, there must be something wrong with it, or I'm not going to do it just because I have to," end quote.
Well, just a little bit of history. In the 1980s, Austria also had mandatory vaccinations for children to fight smallpox. Now, they are the first European country to tell their citizens they must get the COVID vaccine or else pay a hefty fine. Now they are done with the gentle persuasion and now moving on to more forceful tactics to get their population inoculated.
Well, we're going to turn it over to our field correspondent, Larry McGee, who has more for us as we continue to speak about COVID-19, but this time not so much of people getting the jab, but their false proof of getting the jab, because there's been a lot of fake cards, vaccination cards, and there's been a lot of scams going on with that. Also, North Korea and their most recent missile test that's got kind of the world on edge, and the ongoing crisis with Ukraine. Larry, what do you have for us?
The turmoil of the plague has not been sufficient to change the minds of the people thus far, so that even amidst the surge of yet another variant, the thoughts of the people are still situated squarely on themselves. Examples of this can be seen in two New York nurses who were recently charged with theft for selling fake vaccine cards. The two are said to have raked in $1.2 million through their fraud. As its citizens suffer hardship, the DPRK continues to channel millions of dollars of its resources into weapons manufacturing. The country is now celebrating the launch of its Hwasong-12 missile, which is said to be capable of striking U.S. bases in Guam and Japan. North Korea's activities reportedly have its neighbors in the U.S. concerned, but Pyongyang insists that its efforts are technical trials and are not designed to produce provocation. It is Moscow's stance that it is being provoked to war by NATO and U.S. policies, while America maintains that Russia has ambitions to finish the job in Ukraine, a move which President Biden has stated would come at a heavy cost for Moscow. Despite that, there are reports in the West of a large military mobilization to the Ukrainian border by Russia, accompanied by multiple military exercises, but President Putin maintains that he has no interest in invading the former Soviet state, despite appearances and assertions to the contrary. America also alleges to have evidence that Moscow intends to increase its troop presence to 30,000 along its Belarus border, which NATO officials say is the same maneuver it employed prior to its move against Crimea in 2014. At this point, the U.S. is exporting weapons to Ukraine and providing military training to its citizens. There are also reports that Washington intends to move U.S. troops stationed in Europe closer to the front lines with Russia, and troops throughout the U.S. have been placed on high alert. Moscow says that America and NATO have not appropriately responded to its demands for guarantees for a rollback on NATO forces near its border and a ban on Ukraine joining NATO, so that Russia sees itself and America once again locked in a warming Cold War. For YPN News, I'm Larry McGee. Katan Jeff, back to you.
Well, as we can see, Ukraine is definitely a spot that everybody is keeping their eye on. Russia making their moves, but the U.S. also planning their moves. Well, as Russia and the U.S.'s relation is reaching a breaking point, the relationship between Russia and China is growing stronger. Now, Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping met in Beijing to strengthen relations and pledge support for one another.
That's right. They both issued a joint statement asking for NATO to halt its expansion, which is also a further sign of the deepening of relationships between the two nations. Now, the statement also called for the United States to abandon what Russia and China called a Cold War ideology.
Well, the Kremlin described the cooperation between the two nations as an advanced partnership with a special character. Now, Putin said at the meeting, the bilateral relations are developing with the spirit of friendship and strategic partnership and have reached an unprecedented level.
He continued, they are an example of upstanding relations which help both sides to develop and support each other at the same time, end quote. While there, Putin also unveiled a gas deal with China, thereby reducing its dependence on its European customers. The joint statement also said that Moscow supported Beijing's stance on Taiwan and opposed Taiwanese independence in any form.
Chinese state media said that China and Russia will support each other in defending core interests and would deepen strategic cooperation. Now, Xi also said that China-Russia strategic cooperation was unshakable, past, present, and future.
Let's take a look at this next video for more on this particular meeting between the two superpower leaders of Russia and China.
Vladimir Putin meets with Chinese leader Xi Jinping for the first time since the pandemic started.
Our bilateral relations are developing progressively in the spirit of friendship and strategic partnership. They have acquired a truly unprecedented character and are an example of a worthy relationship that helps each other develop and at the same time supports each other in development.
What was agreed?
The sides oppose further enlargement of NATO and call on the North Atlantic Alliance to abandon its ideologized Cold War approaches, to respect the sovereignty, security, and interests of other countries. The sides oppose the return of international relations to the state of confrontation between major powers, when the weak fall prey to the strong. Russia and China stand against attempts by external forces to undermine security and stability in their common adjacent regions, intending to counter interference by outside forces, oppose color revolutions. The sided call on the United States to abandon its plans to deploy intermediate-range and shorter-range ground-based missiles in the Asia-Pacific region and Europe.
Well, the video kind of reiterated the fact that Russia and China are really strengthening their ties and their friendship, probably to directly come against the U.S. and NATO that have made their moves and really done some moves that Russia was very unpleased with recently with Ukraine and really building up right along Russia's borders.
And even China made, with that joint statement that we mentioned earlier, pretty much expressing the same sentiments as Russia, don't advance anymore, don't surround any more of Russia, and they really don't want Ukraine to be a part of the NATO alliance.
Well, Vladimir Putin accused the U.S. of ignoring Russia's concerns of Ukraine joining NATO, the Western military alliance. Now, Putin had deployed at least 100,000 troops around Ukraine, and the U.S. has sent fighter jets and support units to Estonia, a NATO ally that used to be part of the Soviet Union. Now, American F-15 Eagles flew through the skies in a show of U.S. military force with a message to NATO allies that we've got your back, and a message to Russia saying we are watching.
America's 336th Fighter Squadron is taking part in an enhanced air policing mission. Lieutenant Colonel Taylor Gifford said in an interview with CBS Morning News, quote, "This is a team effort from the NATO alliance," end quote. Well, the Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania are sandwiched between Russia, the Baltic Sea, and Russia's ally, Belarus, to the south.
Russia has deployed fighter jets to the region, launched naval exercises in the Baltic Sea, and rolled missile systems into Belarus. Now, all of this is part of the reason that the U.S.'s mission, or the U.S. had their mission there in the region, a response to Russian military aggression. Now, the U.S. and NATO stepped up its response with the 2014 Russian annexation of Crimea and the incursion into eastern Ukraine by Russian-backed militia.
So they've been really going at this and kind of being, NATO and U.S. being in Russia's backyard, so to speak, for quite a few years now. Well, the head of the Estonian Air Force told CBS Morning News that the U.S. jets are crucial. He said this bolstering shows that the alliance is taking this business seriously.
Well, U.S. troops with the 82nd Airborne Division from Fort Bragg, North Carolina, prepared for deployment for Eastern Europe as tensions escalate between Russia and Ukraine. Now, they are among the 2,000 troops heading to the region to support NATO. U.S. intelligence recently revealed a propaganda plot by Russia to stage an attack by Ukrainian forces as a pretext for a possible Russian invasion.
U.S. intelligence said that a Russian propaganda video staged by Russia could show explosions, corpses, Western military equipment, and even acting grieving mourners. Also, Russia is suspected to have already recruited people, and the fake victims could be in Russia or are Russian-speaking people from Ukraine. Now, the U.S. has been saying for weeks that Russia could stage an attack, initiating a false flag operation.
Well, so far, the U.S. hasn't provided any supporting evidence of this so-called planned stage attack, but has said that this is just one of many options that Russia has, and the U.S. is going public in hopes to dissuade Russia from moving forward.
Well, take a look at this next video regarding Russia's assumed propaganda campaign. Now, again, the U.S. hasn't released any evidence of it, and that seems to be one of the concerns of a reporter at a recent press conference with Ned Price, the U.S. State Department spokesman. Take a look.
Good afternoon. Russia continues to engage in disinformation campaigns.
You made an allegation that they might do that. Have they actually done it?
What we know, Matt, is what I have just said, that they have engaged in this activity, in this planning activity. But let me because obviously this is not the first time we've made these reports public. You'll remember that just a few weeks ago.
I'm sorry. Made what report public?
If you'll let me finish, I will tell you what report we made public. We told you a few weeks ago that we have information indicating Russia also has already prepositioned a group of operatives to conduct a false flag operation in eastern Ukraine. So that, Matt, to your question, is an action that Russia has already taken.
It's an action that you say that they have taken, but you have shown no evidence to confirm that. And I'm going to get to the next question here, which is, what is the evidence that they, I mean, this is like crisis actors, really? This is like Alex Jones territory you're getting into now. What evidence do you have to support the idea that there is some propaganda film in the making?
Matt, this is derived from information known to the U.S. government, intelligence information that we have declassified. I think you know.
Okay, well, where is it? Where is this information?
It is intelligence information that we have declassified.
Well, where is it? Where's the declassified information?
I just delivered it.
No, you made a series of allegations and statements.
Would you like us to print out the topper? Because you will see a transcript of this briefing that you can print out for yourself.
That's not evidence, Ned. That's you saying it. That's not evidence. I'm sorry.
What would you like, Matt?
I would like to see some proof that you you can show that
Matt, you have been
that shows that the Russians are doing this. Ned, I've been doing this for a long time.
I know, that was my point. You have been doing this for quite a while. You know that when we declassify intelligence information, we do so in a means we do so with an eye to protecting sources and methods.
Is not going to fall. I remember a lot of things. So where is the declassified information other than you coming out here and saying?
Well, Ned Price really didn't answer the reporter's questions as where is this declassified information that you say that they have. And really that makes me think of a similar situation in Syria where President Bashar al-Assad, they were accusing him of, remember the gas attacks, the chemical attacks against their own people. And, you know, they were saying that that was staged to try to get U.S. to come in there. And now they're kind of flipping it around and saying, well, Russia's going to do the same thing so that they can move in.
Right. And that's been the tactic of many foes throughout the years to build up in the people's minds justification for going to war with another country, and also at the same time making that country look very bad in the eyes of, you know, the citizens of that country that wants to go to war, because, you know, lives are lives. You know, and no one likes to see innocent people injured in war. Sadly, that's the majority of the people that are, you know, suffer in these wars. But, you know, they have to get the people's minds to thinking that the other people are bad, so they kind of deserve what they get. And that's kind of what we're seeing taking place right now.
It's kind of the, like the old, you know, create a crisis, then come in and solve it. Look like the great guys and come in and solve it.
That's right.
Well, if you want to learn more about these stories, contact the House of Yahweh. And when you do, don't forget to request your free copy of the monthly newsletter and Prophetic Word magazine. Here's how.
To contact the House of Yahweh, you can write them at the House of Yahweh, P.O. Box 2498, Abilene, Texas 79604. You can call them at 1-800-613-9494. Visit them on any of their websites by going to Yahweh.com, YisraelHawkins.com, or Yahweh'sBranch.com. You can also visit our website by going to YPNnews.com. You can email the House of Yahweh at info@yahweh.com. And for all calls outside the United States, please dial the number on your screen. And don't forget, as mentioned previously, the Yisrael Says and Ask Yisrael program to aid you in studying and understanding the scriptures. You can find those two sites by going to YisraelSays.com and AskYisrael.com. Well, don't go anywhere, because up next, another informative message by Yisrael Hawkins. For all of us here at YPN News, I'm Katan Alexander.
And I'm Jeffrey Heimerman.
Thank you for watching.